Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Let's Chat Reality. I'm Michael, here today to talk the big Survivor 50 finale 3-hour event the other night. Lot to get into, and I couldn't be more excited to get into it all with my guest today, our friend from Deal or No Deal Island Season 2, it's Phillip Solomon. Phillip, how are you?
I'm good. I am not gonna lie, I'm a little exhausted after 3 hours of content, but very much like that audience halfway through the night, I have no idea what's going on. And so
And
we're ready to party.
Like Jeff, had no idea what was going on for a
Also,
moment at
Jeff,
least.
someone at CBS lost their job yesterday. Somebody did. I'm telling you for
Ooh.
sure.
Oh boy, yeah, that wrong show, but expect the unexpected, I guess we should say.
Always, always.
Philip, thank you so much for joining me. I am so excited to get into all this with you. But first, before we get into Survivor 50, I have to ask you because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you were watching Australian Survivor last season,
Uh-huh.
correct?
Yes.
So I have to ask. Of course, your friend from Deal or No Deal Island season 2, David Janae, is our new host of Survivor Australia. What
Yeah.
did you think of him as host?
I will say that I think if anything, anyone on our show can almost shed a little bit more light. The David that we met as host is who we met on Deal or No Deal Island. And so it's almost more weird to go back and watch the Golden God stuff because we never got to meet that guy. And I think, I don't want to say, okay, David is a very realistic, straight up person, but he also understands how to make a TV show. So I'm not saying that he's acting, but I will say that he knows how to put the Golden God on as far as just regular David times New Roman size 12 Australian David. That's who we met. So like it's weird for me to go back and see the Golden God stuff, but in seeing him hosting, I go, yeah, this to me makes way more sense.
hmm This is the David, not the Australia versus the world that you saw, I guess, filmed. Oh, no, it filmed right after your
Oh,
season, so it
immediately after,
aired
like 3 weeks
afterwards. Yeah.
after. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that this is the David that you know. That makes sense. I
Yeah.
feel like as host, you're not supposed to be the focus necessarily. So he's not like trying to, get camera time, and not that it's an act like you said, but it's just naturally, I think, as you're a contestant on one of these shows, you want to hopefully be on the show. And so here he's able to not have to worry about that so much and be more of himself. And I think as the season got on, it seemed like he got a lot more comfortable. And I feel like you could start to see what he'll be like in future seasons than maybe the first couple weeks he was a little nervous.
Yeah, I mean, I think even in speaking to him, he was very forthcoming with me and being like, "Yeah, those first episodes are so." Like, he was like, "I was so nervous. I didn't know this. I didn't." And I'm like, I love being realistic. I love being able to look back at yourself and go, "Good, not my best, but good." I have no issue in that, and like, I love being able to self reflect, and he does that really well. And he even said, I spoke to him after episode 1 and episode 2 or 3, and he was like, yeah, I get much smoother throughout the season. I get better. I get this, I get that. And he did. And I go, okay, cool, great. And so it's such a good skill to be able to like know where you excel and know where you're like, nope, not so much yet.
Yeah, no, I thought he did great. I thought by the end of the season, I forgot that he was new at this because I associate him so
Yes.
much with the show that yeah, I could absolutely. I think he was the right pick. I love Jonathan LaPaglia, but I think that if Jonathan couldn't do it, I think David was a great choice. And even those who maybe were a little skeptical of it, I feel like by the end had fully embraced him as host.
Can I give a quick shady hot take?
Please do.
I know this is like not that type of pod, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
Do it. Go
The
for it.
JLP photos from the Survivor 50 finale, I guess Survivor was keeping him young because what happened? It all like what he's been out of it for like one season and the man put on like 6 years and I was like, "Oh no. It
You
all
know,
happened so fast."
I wonder if it was also like, when you're on these shows, I'm sure he gets like professional makeup and all
Yeah.
that stuff. And then that probably also helps to we're not used to seeing him just kind of like in normal life and not professionally made
Let's go with that because I have always appreciated explanation.
up. All right. Well, then let's get into Survivor 50. Good
Oh,
segue there. What were your overall thoughts on this season?
the season. I think the season was exciting. It actually allowed the players the room and the space to play. And what I mean by that is just that it feels like for a new era because it's their first time on TV, first time on the island. And I even experienced that myself. I could only really relate it to like myself teaming up with Parvati initially. It took me till day one, maybe through three or four, before I was even used to the cameras, the microphones, or whatever else. So by the time the real civilians got to play and really get used to the game, the celebrities had already swept us out. Like it was already done by day four. We were already long gone. And so I think for me, when you're getting people that have already been on TV and been on the show, you don't have to do the whole, hi, I'm Philip. I'm from Austin, Texas. I do this for work. We got to skip it and just go right to the gameplay from episode one, which, like, I understand for narrative purposes, with a new cast we need that, but it was very refreshing as viewers to not need that. And like not only do we know who they are, but like we know the history, we know the relationship, so we just got to like see all the things actually happen.
Yeah. Look, it's been a long time since we had a returning player season. It was 2020 and it started pre-COVID, and anything pre-COVID to me might as well have been 20 years ago. So
Honestly,
it
yes.
feels like it had been so long, and it was refreshing to just be like, okay, we can start day one and we know these people, we know what they're all about, and we don't have to learn new names. And it was nice to have that. It was a nice change of pace, I think, just from the new era that had been for 9 seasons, just very cookie cutter for better or for worse. And this felt like a change of pace at the very least.
Yeah, and I just think we needed it after. I mean, it's hard to do two seasons a year every year. And
Hmm.
as people who love the show, you want more of it, but sometimes you're like, again, like the sheer fact that it ended last night and they were like, come back in a few weeks in September, we're going to do it all over again. And I'm like, I'm exhausted already.
I
Like, I'm
know.
tired. I'm tired.
No,
It
I
just
feel the same
ended.
way. I think that's what's something like so special about Big Brother is that it is only once a year. And yes, by the end of a Big Brother season, you are exhausted. You do not want to
Truth.
see another word from these people. But then by the time it starts again, like around now, I feel like we're like, where's Big Brother? I can't wait for Big Brother. I miss it.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily get that with Survivor so much because it is on more often and it is on twice a year. So I agree with you. I think there is something to missing a show.
Yes.
Well, let's get into our finale then, because we have a lot to get to, of course. So, our final five come back after Suri was voted out. We get Joe and Jonathan talking about the fact that they want to go to the end with Rizzo. So, they plan to vote out Aubrey or Tiff tonight, depending on who wins immunity. Now, which do you think, before we knew who won immunity or anything, or if they'd have both options, which do you think would have been the smarter move for them to get Aubrey or Tiff?
If they were both available, let's say like Rizzo won emotion or whatever else, which no, but anyway, but let's just say he did.
In the alternate
Um,
universe, yeah.
right, it's fine. I think getting rid. It's hard because I do think that both Tiff and Aubrey had the same amount of likability with this jury specifically. In Survivor fandom, Aubrey would have been the easy vote out. But when you look back at the heavy hitters on the jury, who are they closest with? Probably 50% Tiff, 50% Aubrey. But either way, I agree with Tiff's point that, listen, you're either going to lose to me or you're going to lose to Aubrey. You got options here, but either way, you're all going down. And I think even as a viewer, we were like, true, that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah, it just kind of, I think it comes down to who they think is more likely to win in the immunities later
Yeah.
on. And I feel like it's half a dozen one ways. It's, it probably, they were both just as likely. Like, I think Tiff would have won Samotion, and Aubrey did win Samotion. So I think that they probably, I guess it really didn't matter that much. And maybe then it comes down to who they think is the bigger threat with the jury, which I really don't know how Tiff would have done. I want to think that she would have had a great chance, but we didn't see her game for the first half of the season.
Yeah, that edit was heavy-handed in letting us know that she was not going to make it to the end, because I think even the editors want some kind of justification, and it would have been hard to justify her at a final tribal without us really seeing how she started the game. I think that she came too far to be edited the way she was.
Yeah.
I think we've seen that though for a lot of women of color. And it's super weird because it's either we give them everything or nothing. We either give them
Mm.
Sandra or Sari, or we give them nothing. We give them Michaela, we give them Tiffany, we give them, like, there have been a few that I'm like, are they there? Like, what's happening right now? And I think that I don't know if CBS knows what to do with women of color yet. I just don't, because we get things like, hey, where, like, I think from what I've heard, and I know the 48 cast pretty well, she played a pretty good game, but CBS was like, let's just make her look like she's there to cause mischief, which is fine, but sure. But like, there was way more to her game.
And that's why we need more people of color in the editing room, more people of color in the producing room, every room.
Everyone thinks that it ends in casting. And I go, no, no, no. But like, you put them on the show and then you never use them or tell their stories. And that's somehow more insulting.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And I unfortunately, with the way things are going with CBS and Paramount and everything, I don't know that it's going to get any better. And
The
I hate to say
spoilers
that.
for 51 say no, it is not.
Yeah, yeah. I was. I think I saw somebody give a number, and it was definitely less than 50%. So
Oh, way less. Yeah,
those
yeah.
days are over, unfortunately.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And it would have been such a more interesting finale if we had thought that Tiffany had a legitimate shot of winning coming into it. But I think most people who at least pay close enough attention to the editing knew that it was just never going to happen, because they would have shown more of her. And so
Right.
it became a thing of like, okay, well, when is she going to be fifth or fourth?
Right. Yeah, yeah, totally. Yes.
So well, then we actually go to the live on stage for the first time, our first little outbreak here, and Suri comes out and she gets emotional talking about the past 20 years. And then Jeff presents her with this Spirit of Survivor award, which I thought, oh my God, she didn't win the fan favorite award, and this is
Agree.
their consolation prize. But what did you think? First of all, what did you think of just like the way that they handled this live finale?
This entire live finale was a disaster area, and
Yeah.
it's from a production standpoint, it's actually harder to manage. They thought it was going to be easier to run two shows at the same time, so they're running the live show, then going back and forth in between the episode. That I was like, see, before we just used to air the episode, then just do the live show in one shot. And I don't know why Jeff thought. He specifically said in an interview, no, 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 I want to do it this way. I think it's going to be more interesting for the. It was not. It was just confusing, actually. And so, in turn, I didn't love it. I didn't love the weird award that Jeff was like, we had the art department make this up. And I was like, please stop talking, Jeff. I didn't want this at all. And then it looked like something out of Global Guts, like they gave her a piece of the aggro crag. I don't know what the hell was happening. It was just insanity. The whole thing was crazy. But I did think that in giving her that award, that she was not going to win the CM money. And knowing that she did win the CM money makes that award even weirder, because who else was nominated? Who decided? What would be the purpose of the award per se?
This would have just been, I think, a good time to give her the Sia money. Like, I guess they wanted to wait till the end for that, but I feel like this would have been like, I think everyone was kind of hoping like, oh, maybe they're calling her out because they were gonna give her the Sia money, and that would have been fine. And then we could have spent another couple minutes talking with, other people at the like mini reunion that they did, rather than
The
having
sheer
to.
fact that they had Marianne, Parv, Michelle, all those winners there, and didn't even pan past them. The
Yeah.
sheer fact that they had all people from all 50 states that won idols, that found idols, and didn't even pan past them to be like, let's hear it for all the idol win. There were so many missed opportunities that I was like, what is happening here? They didn't even talk to pre-jury at all. And so I was like, like what's going on?
I know they brought the pre-jury or the non-jury, as he called them, I think, out on stage, and then he was like, "Here's a toast." I'm like, not a single one of them said a single word, and I'm
Not
like,
a word. I want to check in with Kyle. How's your like? I know how
yeah,
the live finales work, and so the pre-jury only really gets like a couple general things. But like there were, I would have come up with 2 to 3 things that I would have asked. I've been like, okay, cool. So like, what's one thing that you saw after you left that maybe you were like, oh, I would have been great at X, Y, Z. Like there are things you could have asked, especially because if you're going to assemble this Survivor all stars, Marvel superheroes from all over the world, and then not appreciate that, not acknowledge that. I'm like, there were people that were so upset about not being on this cast. Let's at least take the people that we did get and hype them up.
yeah, you would think. And I mean, look, did we need the family visit? I mean, like nothing happened at it. Like I get it, bring them out, whatever. But I think we could have maybe cut that segment and then spent a little more time talking with the pre-jury, talking, shouting out some of the people in the audience.
Are you
Something that
sure we
I
didn't
think would
want to
have
hear
been.
about Joe's beautiful, tall ass wife? I'm pretty sure we did need to hear that, actually, word for word.
Yeah, like unless you're gonna have them like actually be a part of it, kind of like they did on Australian Survivor, where it was perfect. They had them watch the immunity challenge. It was so intense, everything. That was a great way to do it. But here it was like just such a nothing burger that maybe we could have cut that. I don't know. Put it as a secret scene today. Like have them release it the next day, something. But we didn't. Somehow in 3 hours we didn't have time for a lot of the stuff that would have been great.
Literally in 3 hours that I was like, we had time. We just chose not to have time. But like we had.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, then getting back to the actual show itself, we get to the immunity challenge, and Tiff and Jonathan are in a very close race to complete the puzzle. It was so close, but Jonathan pulled it out, unfortunately for me at least. I'll speak for myself. But
You
it
speaking
was
for
it was
America.
very sad moment to see Tiff come so close, but just not quite get there.
I just, to be honest, I understand the theatrics of like the whole immunity challenge and stuff, but I thought to myself, hey, if we just cut all those other parts and had them start at the puzzle, we would have
Mhm.
had the same outcome. Like it, like that rest of that challenge could have been an email because they just stayed with each other for the whole thing up until
Mhm.
that puzzle. And I'm like, we could have saved them the mud, that weird shaking the things off the stick, the weird throw the bag at the. I was like, we didn't need all this. This is a lot. This is unnecessary. Start them at the puzzle or give them a real immunity. I just feel like that is one of the moments where if you wanted an emotional response out of a player, you could have gotten one where it was like the how long can you stand on something or how long can you hold something. That's the point where they're willing to push themselves. Now they're hungry when they know that that immunity is so significant. This I don't think was the right time for that whole like new challenge fishing pole. I was like, I don't want this right now.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how a lot of the Survivor challenges go. Is it really the puzzle's the only part that matters? And I'm glad that we have the puzzle part because then it's like Big Brother otherwise where a lot of the challenges are just purely physical and you get the same winners over and over again. So at least the
Agree?
puzzle is a bit of an equalizer, but then it's like, well, do we need the first part of it? Which I guess it makes them tired. It like maybe does some other things that they like, but I agree that I think a lot of that is just kind of wasted time, that it really doesn't, most of the time it doesn't make a difference, and then it just comes down to who can do the puzzle first.
Always.
Well, then we go back to the live show where Christian and Devins are talking to Jeff, and they talk about planning the fake idol, the Mr. Beast coin flip, and he gives Devins the coin to keep. Do you think Devins is going to keep this or try to sell it?
He's going to keep it now. I think that for a lot of these players, it is truly their last time playing just because of age. And so
Mhm.
I believe that this is his last time playing. And so I think that like for a lot of players like Devins, this was more of a nostalgia piece. I think we'll see Tiff and Jonathan and those players again. But like any of those players that are in their like late 40s, early 50s, by the time another returning season might be there in 10 years, they're not going to do this. So like honestly, I think for a lot of the older players, they were just all about like, let's get every minute out of this that we possibly can.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think this is the last season for Devins.
Really?
I really don't. I feel like he made a like even people who like in the beginning of the season were like, "Oh, Devins, I don't know how I feel about Devins like on his first season." I think a lot of people came out of this season feeling really positive about him,
I do.
and I think that he is somebody who even if he might be too old to really like compete in the challenges by the time another season comes about, I think he would still do it. And I think that a lot of people would be happy to see him. I think he like really made a name for himself this season as like one of the not just like a cult favorite, but like an actual like fan favorite.
But think about it like this with players like, let's say, Devins, and let's actually just say Christian, or even really Ozzy. They've never won, but
Mhm.
are they going to be able to outdo where they are in Survivor fandom, in the microcosm of Survivor community? I feel like they've hit the peak, and I'm okay with that. Like you need to know when you're like, this is as high as I can get. Like
Mhm.
they are up there. In they might not be up there like Survivor Mount Rushmore with like Parv and Austin Rob and stuff like that, but they're about as high as you could get outside of that. And so it's like,
Mhm.
would you go back to ruin your own game, like to ruin your own reputation? Is Devin's gonna ever win? Is Hari gonna go back and be like, I'm gonna really try and win this one? We're gonna be like, you know what? It's okay, baby. We've given you all that we can. 100 grand, a weird award that looks like the aggro crag. We gave you everything that we possibly could. We
Yeah.
supported you on Big Brother, Snake in the Grass, Traders, go on Top Chef and make a souffle. I don't care. We're gonna support you, but at the same time, we don't like. Do we need you again? I don't think we do.
No, I agree. I think that for Suri and Ozzy, this is the end. Like this felt like the end. This was the last chapter of their Survivor book. I don't know that I feel about that way about Devins. I feel like I think he has one more in him, and I don't know that it's like in the next couple of years. I don't think it's going to be the next time there is a returning because I assume that they're not going to wait till 60 to do a returning player season. It sounded like Jeff was really like, we're going to do these more often, but I could see him on season 60, 60 something, or like maybe a season that's like there's four returnees, kind of like his first season. Like
Yeah.
I could see that format. I could see him being in kind of like that captain, tribe leader, tribe captain role, something like that.
I would love that for him. It's just hard to see it with seeing where we think the show is going and then having the season 51 cast confirm where the show's going. And we're like, oh, yeah, no, this is, we are not going in that direction at all.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'll be interested to see kind of what direction they go in terms of if they're going to mix with newbies or whether they're going to do some sort of like all returnee season around like 54, 55. I don't know. I think it'll just depend on how many they do of these returning player seasons and whether they're going to call people from 50 for them or they'll go to the people who didn't get picked for 50 that were in the mix and people were excited about that didn't end up being chosen for it.
I would love some kind of millennial versus Gen Z situation where
Yeah.
even like your elder millennials, which like this makes my whole stomach hurt, but like for me at my age who like understands TikTok and Snapchat and stuff like that, I'm not that old, but on 51, I would be the second oldest one on that entire cast, which is
Oh my
crazy
god,
to
is that
me. Uh huh.
no.
I was like, oh no. And so, like, for me, it's hard to say some of these players have a shot at coming back again when the average age of next season is 25. And I was like, oh no. Oh God.
See, I didn't even pay
You have to
attention to
look at
the
the ages.
ages.
Oh, it's
Oh
absolutely insane.
no.
It is,
Oh, that's
there
really
is,
concerning.
there is one woman in her upper 40s, and I believe she's the oldest, and that's it. And then it drops down to 36, I think, and then it goes into 20s, and I'm like, oh no. So like that,
Oh, that made me shudder. Oof.
right? And you're like, oh no, I think I've aged out of Survivor somehow. I don't know
Oh
how, but I've
no.
aged out of Survivor.
Oh boy. All right. Well, maybe 52 will be different. We'll see.
Maybe.
But then we get to back to camp, and the plan is to get out Tiffany when they first go back to camp. That seems to be the consensus. But Tiffany does try to get them to convince them that Aubrey is the bigger target. We talked a little bit about this, but what did you think of Tiffany's plan here? Is there anything else that she could have done besides this? Or was this the only thing that she could have possibly done?
This is hard because I think it also comes with a harsh reality. And Tiffany made mention of this in her exit interview. She said what CBS did not show because they're CBS. She was like, but Joe's record is just as good as mine. Exactly what she said at Tribal. All that of being like, Aubrey's way more of a threat than me. So I'm not really understanding what's happening right here. And Jonathan said, well, like it's different because you're a girl. Then I'm like, number one, why would you ever say that out loud? Even if it were true in your head, in your heart, in your spirit, why would you ever say that out loud? Number two, it also hurts my soul that CBS decided not to air it, in more than likely in an effort to protect him. And that's what scares me even more, because there are things that are not aired, and it's never to protect the marginalized. It's always to protect the other. And so my hot take, and this is going to get me probably canceled on every avenue. And so for that, I'm half sorry, half not. But Michael, I'm going to ask you up front, do you think Jonathan would ever and could ever fully physically and emotionally align himself with not only a woman, but a woman of color?
I don't see that
Right. I
happening.
don't either. And that's not me being judgmental. That's just me taking the information that I have and going, I don't think that's his style. And I know that that's absolutely awful to say out loud, but I'll tell you, we were all thinking it when she was like, but it makes no sense to take me out when there are people that are more of a threat. So why me? And all of us had the answer in our head and we just refused to acknowledge it or say it out loud.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that Tiffany is the type of I just don't think that they would ever see eye to eye on anything strategically enough to
Yeah.
where that either of them would work well together. And so I don't think that it's one of those things where unfortunately the makeup of this final five was Joe and Jonathan, who I just don't think would like they like to align with people like each other.
Yep.
And so when they two of them are two of the votes that you would need, it's like it's going to be hard to get there when you're just not the type of person who would see eye to eye with them.
Yeah, I think that I didn't love Tiffany's treatment in general. I think that there were a lot of opportunities that they had to make Tiff, I don't want to say into like a superhero, but to make her into a more fully fleshed out character with that was like multifaceted and layered and had all this stuff. And they only showed her when she was excelling physically or aggressively responding to someone. And I just know that like in knowing her, there is more to her. There's a lot more to her. There's just not, but you have to be willing to also show that and put it on a platform. And it will never be lost on me the question that everyone else got after leaving the game, and Tiffany, the only woman of color, got. Hey, was there ever a moment where I know you probably felt like you didn't belong here, right? That's what she was asked.
Yeah.
And so if you look at it out of if you look at it in the show, it wasn't that big of a deal. But when you hear it like that, just removed from everything else, you're like, ooh, that was bad. Yeah, that was not good. That was really not good. And I clocked it, and I was on Threads, and Threads clocked it too, of being like, why did we ask her that? Why was the only thing, did it feel like you didn't deserve to be here? That was your big thing after playing the game that she did from the bottom, the middle, the bottom again, we chose to ask her that.
Yeah, that's I hope, I really do hope that even with everything going on, specifically at Paramount and CBS, I hope that these things will improve and people will learn and grow, and that pointing out these things on social media will catch the eye of somebody there who will then have that in mind in the future and not make that choice again. But yeah, it's sad that in 2026 that we are still here and not, we don't know better than, or they don't know better than to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is one of those where to host the show correctly and to do all the things, like, I think we knew that Tiffany felt like that. And even in watching the show, you can hear in her confessionals and stuff, she really did feel like someone that might not, that was like, I know I was invited back, but I'm trying to figure out, like, what did they see in me to be there? And so if it were me, I would have said something like, Tiffany, you were an underdog in your original season. You didn't even actually make it that far, but there was a spark there. So tell me a big change that you made from your last season to this one to come as far as you did, which addresses the same issue without making her feel like a dumbass.
Sure.
And so for me, like, I think that like, I don't want us to handle our contestants of color with kid gloves. I just want us to like address it and also be like, but there's a like there are ways that we can ask things that like don't make us feel less than. And the
Well,
idea of like, was there any imposter syndrome you had in looking around and seeing these people, and then there's you, and you're like, oh God. Ugh.
well, and I don't think it's handling them with kid gloves to ask that you would ask them a question just like you asked everybody else, and not a completely different type of question. That's not handling them with kid gloves. It's just asking them to be treated like everybody else.
Agree. Always. Yeah.
Well, then we do get to tribal, and Tiff expresses her hurt feelings after being deemed the biggest threat when Jonathan has won the same number of immunities that she has. We just talked about that, and she says that she thinks they're voting out the wrong person tonight. That Aubrey, they're cutting the wrong wire, I think is what she said. That Aubrey is the choice that they should be making. But it wasn't enough. I think we all knew. She knew going into tribal that it was going to be her, and she was voted out 4-1. But look, I think Tiffany is another one that I absolutely think will be back. I
Yeah.
don't think this is the last we see of her.
I'm actually glad that she got to come back and do this season because I think some people are the victims of bad gameplay. Some people are victims of bad tribe divisions. She was a victim of bad tribe division. And she was, from the moment she got to her last island on a sinking ship. And I was like, well, somebody had to be. So, like, I would love to see people like, let me think. Steph, Charity, Say, Nary, like those people that like just got on a bad tribe initially, and you were like, "Ooh, that's bad." Where like it wasn't their fault; they went home; they were just destined to not do well.
I think one of the most interesting returning player themes that I've heard lately is pre-merge, or like I forgot what they called it. It was a very creative name that I saw, but it was something to do with like pre-merge versus the people who almost got to the very end but it got cut like right before the final three. And I think that is an interesting like tribe division thing where it's like these people who we just didn't get to see enough of because they had a bad tribe, or because maybe they just were a little too young at the time when they first played, or hadn't seen enough of the show yet, but are now like a little older, a little more experienced, more well versed in the show, versus these people who we did see a lot of and had kind of this fallen tragic story that right before the very end, and have a lot to prove, a lot to prove to themselves. And I think that could be a very interesting season.
I know it would screw up their entire like casting dynamic, but I would love an entire season of her stouts. I think if you call 51 seasons worth of people, you'll get at least 20 that are like, okay, I'm in.
Like first boot,
Yeah, like
just
no,
first
like
boot.
number one.
I don't know that we have enough first boots. I think full pre-merge, I think you could do. I think first boot, I just don't know that there's quite enough that I think like we think that sounds that I think in theory that sounds very interesting. I just don't know that in practice, like thinking just like in my mind thinking of a lot of those people, I'm like, do we need to see a full season of some of these people?
But but here's why. We know they do 6 rounds of casting,
Sure.
something in them had to pop that we didn't see. Like you can't tell me that there's not a, was it Trashy Annie or Nicole?
Nicole was first.
Okay, you can't tell me that you're gonna look at Nicole and not be like, "There's a story there." Like I
There
know
is.
there is. I don't know if there's a Survivor winner there, but there is sure as hell a story, and I want to hear it.
I think new era, yes. I actually think there's a lot of first boots in the new era that would be very interesting. Like Jelinski, of course. I would be shocked if at some point he doesn't return.
Yeah,
I think Nicole would be good. I think Stephanie would be great. But when you go back to the earlier seasons, I guess mostly I'm thinking of, I'm
fair.
like, this feels like a lot of people who I don't know if, first of all, I don't know if they would want to, but second of all, like, I'm like, maybe wait like 5 more seasons and maybe you get some good first boots and then we do this.
All right, I'll take it. Deal.
All right. Well, then Mike White appears virtually and talks with Jeff, and he announces
We
that
had time for
Charlie and
that. We had
Camilla
time for that.
they have time for this, of course. But we do get an announcement from him that I think a lot of people had been asking that we find out Charlie and Camilla will be the choices for next season of White Lotus. What do you think of his choices of those two?
Why? And like, it's not okay. And I say that as someone who enjoys both Charlie and Camilla. But again, you know me. I'm very much just like, what are the rules here? Who are we nominating? Like, is it based on like? There's never been any rhyme nor reason. So I think if it is just going to be a that's who I like the most, then we don't have to announce it on the show. Like I think if they're gonna
Mm,
if other people are going to be able to work for it and try for it, or you're looking for something specific like that Sia award, that she was like, listen, this is just who I thought really embodied strength and power and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like that to me makes sense. But you go, you guys get to be on my show because I liked you, and you're like, okay, I guess, but like, why? Why then?
yeah, I was very intrigued by these choices because I thought Ozzy 100% was going to be one of them because they had a good relationship on the tribe. Ozzy has acting experience. I could just see him in some sort of character in the White Lotus. Like it's just like his
Not
vibe
acting
gives me that.
experience when half of it is adult films. Get out of here, Michael. Get out of here. If I check that account right now and you're subscribed to that OnlyFans, we're in
I'm
a
not. Trust me.
you're not because you're not, or you're not because it expired. Either way, I'm judging. I'm judging, Michael. It's happening.
I promise you I am not. But I really thought like that is why Ozzy his whole goal on that tribe was to get in good with Mike White so he could get on White Lotus. And I really thought he had done it. I thought he had succeeded in that mission, but at least not this season, maybe in season.
Listen, we have all seen his whole goal. So sure, whatever you want, Michael. That's fine. You're like, uh-oh. This podcast is rated R for content. I don't care anymore. I don't have to care. So like I'm gonna do it. But at the same time, what? No.
So who did you think he was going to pick?
I thought it was gonna be like Angelina and like somebody he was like super close
But
with.
Angelina's already done it.
Yeah, okay. Actually, yes, that's fair. Because I remember watching that and being like, I know her. So I don't know. I just don't know when it became like I'm like annoyed that it became like an offshoot of the
Mhm.
show. That I'm like, it didn't need to be like this because it actually has nothing to do with Survivor at all. So
Yeah.
I think Mike White is a good player, but we somehow just let his clout and entity grow bigger than him as a player. And I was like,
Mhm.
okay. They're like, we don't have time for anybody but Mike White's away, so let's go over to that. And I'm like, why? Okay, but there are like, did Kyle learn to walk again? I know Kyle, so I know that he did, but at the same time, I want to be like, from an audience perspective, there were other things that I was like,
Right.
we should ask about that.
Yeah, no, 100% that would have been a better use of the time, and then Mike can make the announcement on the morning, CBS mornings to make things
Literally,
more
yes. Yeah.
visible. Well, then we get back to the show, and we find out that the final immunity challenge is Samotion. I think, at least I assumed it would be. I feel like that was the one that I heard people voting for most. Not that anyone really cared. But Aubrey wins her first immunity here, which guarantees her spot in the final three. So, were you surprised that Aubrey won this?
No, I think it was almost kind of made for her to want to win. It wasn't overly athletic. It took a lot of focus and mental stamina, which I think was her strong suit against whoever was already left there. I just would have loved to see maybe the Australian version of Samotion where you have to actually like drop the ball in, like climb down the thing, then put like
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
like wanted to see something elevated because I think that if you're going to say this is the craziest season, we're going to take everything you know and turn it on its head, except we're not. We're just going to do the same exact thing. And I'm like, but we didn't grow, we didn't evolve. So I think that people that have already done emotion have a greater advantage. So for me, none of the challenges this season should have been the same. If you've done some motion already, then you get to be like, okay, cool. We've already done it this way. Now you have to put the ball in from the top of the tower, climb down, make it down to the bottom, and then make it right back up. So that if you've already done it, there is an advantage, but everyone's still starting off at an even playing field. Like
Hmm.
none of these old school players had the advantages on challenges at all.
Yeah. See, what I would have loved to see, and I know that they won't do this on a 26-day season because they are so crunched for time, but I would have loved to see like Hands on a Hard Idol, something like just where it's how bad do you want it?
Right.
And whether it lasts 10 hours, whatever, I think that for this big, like $2 million prize, I think that I would have loved to see just at how bad do you want it? How long are you willing to stay up here? Anyone can do it. It's just a matter of how much or how bad do you want it?
And
And
also
yeah.
the conversations that happen during a competition like that. I'd be like, okay, if you take your hand off, I promise I'm going to bring you. Like now, we
Hmm.
have people putting things on the line, and then if they don't follow through with it, they look like a jerk. Like I'm like, yeah, I like that's what I want to see. But like them putting that stupid ball in the thing for the 89th time, I'm like, I don't want it anymore.
Yeah, it's just it's
Sorry.
not the most exciting thing to watch, but
It's
anyways, Aubrey does win, and then Jeff reveals that the fans voted for Fire, 60% of the vote. How shocked were you?
I don't think any of the fans' votes have mattered. I don't think any election has been real for years, and then this one included. That I was like, no, the fans didn't vote for this. They're like,
No.
the fans voted for Twist, so we're gonna give them all of them. And I was like, I don't
Dynamic
want this.
twists. Yeah. Whatever that
Mm.
means. But
You voted for Idols, so we're gonna make them weird. Billie Eilish, come on in. I was like, I don't know what's happening here.
and
We
Jeff
have lost the plot.
preseason said something like that he was surprised by some of the votes. Where? Which ones were you surprised by?
In the hands of Jeff Probst. Like, let's call it what it is. If one of those votes didn't go the way he wanted, he was gonna because like we still have no real like it just I don't feel respected enough as a fan. We should have known when the fans didn't get to vote on at least three of the spots, even if you don't want them to vote on all the
Mm,
spots. Okay, cool. Give
that
us
would have been
one.
cool.
Give us one, give us three, give us anything. But like as soon as they took fans out of like casting, I was like, yeah, this isn't real.
I wonder if like they almost felt that was too mean to be like, you were chosen, but you have to get in by the America's vote. Cause like I feel like they in when they did that for 31, I think that I feel like I saw Jeff somewhere being like, it was too uncomfortable to watch people like in the audience not get picked or something, and they wouldn't do that again. So I feel like they don't want to do it because like in new era Jeff is too kind of concerned about not I don't know,
So then don't
but
say in the hands of the fans. Don't be like,
right, that
we
season
put
was
this
more
in
in the
your
hands of the fans than
hands.
this one, 100%.
And because you've been watching this for 50 seasons, what color are the buffs? I was like, what?
Right.
What are we doing? This doesn't matter.
That was the one vote that actually went my way though. I did like that color combination the best.
Fair.
Then back at camp, Aubrey tells everyone that she is planning to take Joe to the final three with her, putting Rizzo and Jonathan into Fire. What do you think about her choice to take Joe? Was that the right decision?
Of course it was, and everyone knows that. And I'm
Yeah,
not even going to talk about why, because I like Joe. So instead, I'm just going to say, of course it was. Yep.
I agree. But yes, I do like Joe as well. When we met Joe last year at the Bryson one, and he was very, very nice. And I understand why people gravitate toward him. People like him. It did change my impression of Joe when we met him for sure.
See?
It did, yeah. But I do agree that that was the right decision, and it showed. But before the fire making challenge starts, Jeff brings Rizzo out to the live show and accidentally spoils that he ends up losing fire. What was your reaction to
I
watching
thought I
this?
had a stroke. I was literally like, did I sleep through? Because it was on for so long that I was like, I might have dozed off. I was like, but I don't think I did. Like it took us all a minute to be like, wait, this is wrong, right? And I was like, wait, I don't think we. And I thought it was me because Survivor has been such a reality, well-oiled machine for so many years that I was like, did I sleep through this somehow? Did it happen? I just wasn't paying attention. But and I was like, no, this didn't happen yet. And I just thought to myself, oh no. But in order for Jeff to do that, some production assistant somewhere had to send Rizzo out. Someone on a teleprompter somewhere had to get, like, there had to be other things. Jeff is not in any way running a show out there on his own.
Right.
So I don't know, but I just know that, like, Jeff can't be solely responsible for this.
Oh no, of course. It's unfortunate that he will get all of the blame for it because he's the one that we're seeing on screen. But it certainly was not all his fault. But yeah, no, I thought, I mean, I was like, I was like taking notes as I'm watching. So I thought, my God, I mean, we saw Jonathan like, start a fire very quickly. I was like, is it over that quickly? Like, did he just like press like do one swipe and fires up and somehow I just was looking down and I missed it. But no, that was a very unfortunate blunder that I thought he handled it well afterwards, making a joke of it. Like, that's all you can do is just, like, make fun of yourself, make light of it later on in the episode. I thought he did well with that, but it was a very uncomfortable, awkward situation in the moment.
Very uncomfortable. And my favorite was Auntie Sri, who looked
Just
over,
come sit
and she
down.
was the one that was like, they didn't even see it yet. Just straight face, not even any alarm, anything on her. She was like, hey, they didn't watch it yet. And I was like, oh, okay. Which
Someone had to
is
tell him.
so Sari, and it makes me so happy to be like, no.
Because everyone else was just like silent. And so I'm glad at least she said something because I don't know that if she hadn't said that, I don't know that Jeff would have ever figured out why people were staring at him funny. Like,
Nope, not a clue.
well, then we do see, of course, Rizzo does lose at fire. And imagine if that had all been a ruse and then Rizzo ends up winning. And then we find out that that was all to like make us think.
Honestly, it was too smooth and uncomfortable for it to be like I wish it was, but I was like, I've never seen that look in Jeff's eyes before, and I was like, oh, this is bad.
No, because everyone always says about Jeff, like, he does it without a teleprompter, with nothing in his
Right,
ear. He's first take, never has to repeat anything. And so that's just not something you ever see from Jeff.
right. So I was like, this is
And
actually
we are never getting another live reunion again, live finale.
never,
Never.
never, ever.
Oh, but then yeah, so Rizzo loses. We get the family visit. Not too much to really bring up there, but then we get to final tribal. What did you think of just this jury and this final tribal as a whole?
Jonathan's supporters were real weird. I think there are ways of supporting people and asking things without being so blatant. And I agree with whoever was like, Stephanie, is there a question here? Or are you just going to hype him up for no reason? I just think you're the real deal. You are what Survivor. And I'm like, what's happening right here? Like, she's not asking anything.
No, she said, yes, there's a question coming, don't worry. And then she proceeds to not ask a question.
There never was one. And I was like, oh, okay.
It's like, at least come up with a question at that point. Even if you hadn't planned on saying a question, at least figure something out. Ask him what his favorite color is. I don't know. At least then, like, you got a question.
I just wanted to say you did a good job. Wait, what? What's happening right now? Yeah, yep, that was it. That was it.
Yeah, that was wild. But overall, it was interesting to me how this jury like was clearly very trying to hype up their favorites, their friends, the person who they think deserves to win. Like I feel like we maybe see like once per season somebody come up and ask their question and like is very like, jurors, you need to, think about this, that this person did this. But this time it was kind of like people were interrupting each other's questions to like to clarify things and answer for them. Like it was very clear that people were trying to steer things in the direction that they wanted.
Totally. But what I also love is that their kind of questioning was really good to me, really strong. The idea
Yeah.
of like one way that you had to adapt in the game, the idea that like give me like a move that you can own start to fit. Like you can tell that they've been through a tribal already because sometimes they ask stupid things that don't make any sense. That I was like, why are we doing this? And I was expecting a little bit more ruthlessness and especially I think towards Jonathan instead of Joe. I think Joe got the brunt of it, but I thought Jonathan was going to get more of it only because the votes really show that like no one there was really Team Jonathan except for those three or four. And so in turn, I thought that they were going to let that be a little bit more well known in their questioning. They did not, which I guess just means that they're a respectful adult of being like, it turns out I can just speak with my vote instead of being childish, which I think is we could all learn a lesson from. But yes, totally.
Yeah, one of my favorite questions was Emily's, where she was like, offer a critique of your own game.
I
And
loved Emily's question so much.
I love that because I think that it shows, are you self reflective? Like, are you able to uh, at your own game and see what could you have done better? And it's, maybe a little early to do that at Final Tribal, but I was impressed that they were all able to do it.
Kind of.
Kind
Maybe
of.
Joe a little.
Yeah, maybe not the best answer, but I think that it's hard to do that like as you're still in the game, and I think that it was a good question to say like, do you have the ability to do that, or are you so wrapped up in your own game and yourself that you think you did perfectly?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, uh, dare I say, this was the strongest line of questioning we've seen at a final tribal in a very long time. But
I
again, I
agree.
think that's what comes when you get returning players because they all kind of got to go home and watch their season and be like, I should have asked X, Y, and Z. And so I love the fact that they came in with good questions and not just like, who do you trust the most? And I'm like, I hate it here. Like it was
Yeah.
just one of those things that like actually I'm a firm believer that like, and you know this as just like a podcaster in general. If you ask good questions, you tend to get good answers. But if
Hmm.
you don't know, there is a skill behind asking good questions. And the idea of like, take a step outside of your game, offer yourself a critique. If you could go back and do it again, what's one thing that you did that you might say, wait, maybe next time I wouldn't? Like that to me is a good thing. It shows self-reflection. It also shows that like you are able to take a step outside of yourself and understand that like they're still learning and growing to like it's a much bigger overarching thing versus like who should win right now.
Yeah, 100%. And I thought that the three finalists did decently. Like I think, look, Joe, I don't think ever really had much of a chance, but I think that he did better than I thought maybe he would. And I don't know what he could have said to get a vote. Although Rizzo in his exit press said that he originally had planned to vote for Joe, which surprised me. But I don't know other than that if he could have done much differently with the game that he played. But I think all three of them did very decent.
Yeah, poor Joe. He just didn't. It's not that he didn't want to answer. I think that a lot of people in Final Tribal have analysis paralysis where they get so overwhelmed they can't verbalize what they did. I think Joe almost had the opposite that he wanted to and realized there's nothing to verbalize. He was like, wait.
Yeah.
And then maybe after I didn't do anything. And you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Like he didn't have anything to analyze and that's so bad.
Right. Yeah. But I think like all he can really say is, look, like that's who I am, and I'm going to play my game that, is who Joe is, and Joe is Joe and is never going to change, and that's kind of all he has. And I think that there were a couple of answers where I was like, okay, at least you came up with something and you were able to give an answer that didn't embarrass you.
I think Joe. Okay, this is my question to you, and I already answered it because I started with Joe, but give me like one to two players that you think didn't necessarily need to come back because they took away from their game instead of added. My answers are Joe and Charlie. I think that
Hmm.
like they had more value, more weight. They were more expensive in the world of Survivor before this season.
Hmm. Oh gosh. Okay, that's such an interesting question. Let me think here for a second. I think because my first thought is to go to the winners,
Fair?
but I don't know that Savannah was an early exit, but I don't think that was by her. Like I think she
Right.
was
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
going to be an early exit.
Yeah.
D, I don't think did badly. She was the last winner standing. I think okay. Remind me who the other winners were that were there. Kyle obviously was
Just
not by
those
his
two.
own doing. Was that it? Were there
Yeah.
any other winners?
Mhm.
So it's not going to be a winner. I think Joe. Look, I think Joe. Probably you're right. I think on its face, like yeah, he was more popular the first time that he came out. I had more fun watching him this time because his first time he was on he was the leader of this whole big group and everyone just kind of molded their game to his. Here he didn't have that as much. Like yes, he had his honor and integrity group, but like they weren't in control of the game in the same way the whole time that
Yeah.
the group on 48 was. And so he had to kind of adapt to other people who were playing the game more. So yeah, his game was maybe looked worse, but I was kind of glad he was there because I think he was a very fun foil for everyone else.
Yeah. I think if I had to come up with more, I think Coach. I don't think this season did anything for him. I think it almost took away. Actually, I'm not going to say almost. I'm going to say it actually did.
Yeah. I think Coach was it's fun in Coach is fun in retrospect when you know he doesn't succeed, if that makes sense. Like I think at the time watching that, especially that first merge episode, like I was wanting to throw my TV, something at my TV, but now I can appreciate it more watching it back, knowing the outcome.
But like, do you think that man wanted to leave Survivor community having to be rescued while swimming from having a stomach cramp? Like, you can't tell me this game added to his Survivor stock.
No, it didn't
No,
add. It did not
no.
add for
And there were
sure.
a lot of older players that this game did. As far as I'm concerned, I didn't love Colby. I was one of the few that didn't love him the first few times, but I actually really liked him this time because of his ability to adapt and bring in some of the new era players and play that older role, but still be willing to be like, okay, but if this is how you guys play it now, like I think that he added to his stock, but I don't think Coach added to his stock. Like I don't think Charlie and Joe, a lot of the men did not add to the game. That I was like,
Can I
oh,
give you another name?
go.
Chrissy.
Who I don't even know if she had a super high stock going in. I think
But
she
I
was
think a
just
lot of people saw her as robbed on 35.
there.
That if
Okay,
fire
got you.
making hadn't happened, that she would have won that season. I don't know that I agree with that, but I think that that was kind of her, the way people remembered her. And now I think a lot of people think of her as just kind of the cloth.
Yep. And she did not do a great job of whatever happened last night. That I was like, oh, this is not a good look for you. So yes, I would say that that is another one, and that's one of the things you really have to look out for in a returning player season. Sometimes when you're already at the peak, you need to recognize you're at the peak and be like, no, I'm not coming back because I
Yeah.
don't want to. I think that not only Aubrey added to her stock, but like Emily, Christian, Devins, even Suri to be able to play with people like Rizzo that are literally half her age. That I'm like, you know what? A lot of you guys came back with a new plan and you're like, I'm going to do this differently. And I love that for you. But for a lot, I was like, maybe you should have stayed home just because, like, of it's easier to remember you in a positive way.
Hmm. It's hard to do that. Like it's hard, there's that saying like you don't know you're in the good old days until the good old days are gone. And I think like that's kind of the thing where it's like you getting the call and it's like how many more times am I going to get this call and you think like I have to take it because I this could be the last time I ever get this chance. But then, knowing the outcome, it's easy to say like, "Oh, maybe that wasn't a good idea." But I can totally understand why people would come out even when they are on top just because it's like it's you get the bug in you and you want to do it when you have the opportunity to do it and you don't want to have the regret of saying no and then 10 years later you're like and I never got another call after that.
Yeah, I would have, in knowing them, I was like, Kyle and Camilla, you said yes to this only because their stock was so high that I was like,
Hmm.
it can only go down from here.
Yeah,
And I
but I
will
don't think
say,
either of theirs really went down for me.
no, I will say impressively enough, both of them kind of went up.
Yeah.
Even in not showing Kyle's full injury, when he went back up to help is when he got injured, not when he was doing it for himself.
Mm-hmm.
He still was as Kyle as he always was. And when he
Mm-hmm.
went back to help others, that's when he got injured. And Camilla got to play her own game away from Kyle. So we got to see that she was willing to do those big moves on her own. So I do think there's every so often you find people that are up there that can still bring it up a little bit more. But as a whole, the odds are small for that to ever happen.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. Well, then Aubrey ends up winning with an 8-3 vote. Steph, Chrissy, and Coach were the only ones voting for Jonathan. No surprise. Uh,
They pretty much
and
voted for him orally before they ever left. And so I was like, oh, well, that was weird, but okay.
yeah, exactly. It was the three that you kind of would expect would vote for Jonathan. They did so, but everyone else voted for Aubrey. Where do you put Aubrey as a winner in comparison with the other? I guess there's 47 winners.
I have a hard time with this one, and this is an unpopular opinion, but I'm a firm believer that you cannot put the winners up against each other because the casts are so different.
Hmm.
Like I think like could I'll just use her as an example just because I know her well. Could Parvati have won? Okay, is Parvati one of the greatest winners of all time? Yes. Could she have won season 50? With this cast? No. And so like it's hard for me to put the winners up against each other because I think that it's so dependent on who's there that season as to what your superpower is. Would Aubrey's superpowers have worked on Winners at War? No, it would not have. So, but like it just happened to be the right mix of social game, winning a challenge every so often when you had to, and being able to be the chameleon that worked for this group because the personalities were so big. A big personality couldn't have won it. Like I don't think
Hmm.
I could have seen Coach, Suri, Ozzy winning this season just because they came in again so big and so high. I think you needed someone like Aubrey that was like well known but not up top.
Yeah, it is really, really hard to compare because every cast is so different. Every situation is so different. Every, like, you could say you would have won on this tribe, but if you had been randomly, or not randomly, but like if you had been put on another tribe, you would have not won. And even like this season, if like a twist hadn't happened at a certain time, if you hadn't picked a certain color out of a box, like everything could change. It is so impossible to really compare things, but I do think that Aubrey played a really good game, and I was really happy to see her win because she did is 10 years almost to the day that she lost Go Wrong, and it's just such a like a weird beautiful thing that 10 years later she's now winning season 50.
I mean, I think the win was inevitable just by the edit, and I don't want to like discount that or discredit that, but I do want to move into the exit press after the win because Jonathan said some things that made me mad. And he said on RHAP, I believe, but I listened to like a few of them, that he said Survivor's just not willing to award heroes anymore. They don't want challenge winners. They only want the underdog story. That, like, it hurt my soul a little bit only because it's just like the audacity and the misogyny needed to say we don't want real men anymore. I'm ugh, like that to me is such an antiquated way of thinking that I'm like, are
Yeah.
people still saying things like this out loud? That I'm like, no, the issue is not that we don't want a hero anymore. The issue is you in knowing what a hero looks like. Heroes don't all look like 6 foot 81, 300 pounds, willing to be like a challenge beast and break open coconuts every day and whatever. Heroes just look different. The idea of like social heroes, psychological heroes, political heroes. There are heroes that look not like Superman. There are heroes that look like Clark Kent, if that makes sense. And they're still allowed to be heroes. Like, that's okay. And he can't make peace with that. And that is upsetting to someone like me because although I look like a Jonathan type of hero now, I was not for more than half of my life. And it makes me think like my life didn't start until I went to the gym. And I'm like, that's incorrect. I've always had a sense of overwhelming empathy and leadership and stuff like that. That I'm like, no, but like we shouldn't discredit those like qualities either. Those are still all qualities that could make up a survivor, a winner, a hero.
Yeah, like someone like Joe can play a completely different game than he did.
Right.
And look, I think he played I don't want to discredit Jonathan, I'm sorry, Jonathan's game. I think that he played a good game, but I think he completely lacks the self-awareness needed in order to win a season of Survivor because you have to be humble. You have to establish relationships with people that aren't your just people who you would get along with and gravitate toward in real life, which I think is what he does. He gravitates towards the Joe and the coaches and the Stephanies, and he really only establishes real bonds and friendships with them and kind of discounts everyone else and maybe thinks to himself like, well, I don't have anything in common with them, so I'm not going to even try to really establish a good relationship with them. And I think that that's something that he would need to do in order to be able to win a jury vote.
I think one of the things I love about Survivor is that when it does come down to the jury vote, because we see things like we saw last night where Jonathan Jonathan remembered to be respectable. I'm not going to take that away from him. He was kind, he was polite, empathetic, kind of compassionate when he needed to be. He remembered to be respectable, but he forgot to be likable. And
Yeah.
people forget that I'm like, people have to like you, like also. And so it's hard. Do I think everyone on that jury respects Jonathan's game? I do. I really, really do. But do I think that everyone there is like, I would go out and hang out with that guy? No, I don't.
Right.
I don't. I think Aubrey has more potential to be someone that you would go and like have a beer with, a drink with, and be like, that's a normal person. Like, I think he forgot to be likable. And the thing
Hmm.
is, when you're a superhero versus a regular hero, remember, a regular hero is just like in the world. A superhero, you physically fly above people. It doesn't feel approachable. And I think he forgot to make himself feel approachable.
Yeah. And it sounds like what I was shocked by is that it seems like he came into last night not realizing that he hadn't won.
Oh, he thought he was winning.
Yeah.
According to
How is
his
that
expression,
possible?
he thought he was winning, and
A
that's
year has gone by and he has not had conversations with people on the jury and realized what votes he was going to get and not get.
to be honest, no, and that's the problem.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
no,
That's
no.
what I'm saying is that like I think he was polite to everybody on the island. I think he was, I don't think got into arguments with a lot of people, but I just think that the people who he it was just kind of spending probably all of his time with the honor and integrity group, and didn't really take the time to have deep conversations and really like get to know a lot of the other people. So then when you get to a jury vote, it's like, well, I spent a lot of days on an island with you, but I feel like I don't really know you. And I would rather give the money to Aubrey. And that's what happened.
Yeah. And for the same reason that he wouldn't tell Tiffany why he was voting her out, I go, yeah, that's the same reason that no one's going to say to you, well, we just like Aubrey more.
Yeah.
It's true. Because Aubrey, really, if you think about it mathematically, if you write it all down, they played equally influential games. And so, really, it just comes down to who do you like more? And everyone went, not you. And okay.
Exactly.
Even as an audience member, I actually think I liked him more the last time than I did this time. Like this time just was dripping in misogyny and ego that I was like, I think I hate this. And I don't know if I have also post 2020 just like evolved. And I think it's just a matter of like I think about things about like your tone in how you speak to women and about women. Like I just think I've also matured a lot as well. That I'm like, no, that's not it. And I think there will never be a day where in listening to him and Coach talk to D, I want to say my entire. I was like,
Yeah.
everything hurts. I hate this. Like it
That was
just
like my
it's
least
icky.
favorite episode of the
Right.
season. I
It,
couldn't stand that scene, the haikus of it all of the coach stuff. Like that was all that same episode, and I was just like, ugh, what is this season turning into? But
I don't think Jonathan ever came back from that episode. Like I think
yeah, yeah,
they
I
were
think
all
you're
like,
right.
nope, ew, done. All right.
Well, not only did he miss out on $2 million, but he also missed out on a car.
I swore that they were gonna say, "Well, you didn't win the money, but you get a car." And Jeff said, "You didn't win the money because nobody liked you, so we're gonna also make sure you didn't have a car." And I was like, "That's crazy slash hilarious."
It's so wild to me that that was out of nowhere that Aubrey wins a car. That was not teased. That was not anything. It
He
was.
was just as surprised as all of us. But my real question is, can you take the logo off the car?
I don't know.
What are your views on this?
Wait, I don't know. Wait, what brand was the car?
It had a huge Survivor emblem on the side
Oh,
of
oh,
it.
oh,
Can
oh,
you
oh.
take
Okay, I'm thinking when you say the logo. I sorry, I thought you were thinking like the brand of the car. I was like, wait, why is that controversial? What brand was
No,
it?
no, no. It was like a Toyota.
Toyota, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, 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 no. Fine, but like, can you take off that big Survivor emblem? Like, that's insane.
yeah. I would assume not, but maybe she can paint over it.
That's crazy behavior.
Yeah, I mean, everyone on the street that is at all a Survivor will immediately know that's you, and that feels unsafe.
That right? Just like let's be safe.
Yeah, if I had to guess though, I wonder if she will actually take the car versus taking the money value of the car. I feel like it's what a lot of people do.
Honestly, I mean, she would still have to pay taxes on the car, and because it is a brand new car, taxes are high. So like, it's a
Yeah.
matter of like, if you need a car, sure, but if you're like, no, I'm good on this, then okay, then give it to Jonathan.
Oh, or give
Just
it
let
to
it be.
Devins. That could be her gift to Devins
Like, here
for
you
upping the
go.
prize.
Thank you so much.
Well, then we find out that Suri has won the Sia Fan Favorite Award, which I was very, very happy about. And a little worried that when she got that first award that she wasn't going to get this one, but thankfully she did. So at the very least, she got something out of this season, which deserved.
I noticed you didn't talk about the other grand prize that was given because Ozzy got a T-shirt. So
Oh, yeah. Sorry. How could
which
I'm so
is
sorry.
pretty much equal to the car and the Aggro Crag Award. So at this
Hmm.
point,
Yes. No, thank you for bringing that up. I was remiss not to mention that, but
you're
yes,
welcome.
Ozzy got a shirt that had his face on it, I believe. Was it multiple of his faces or was it him and
Yep,
other
yep,
people?
yep. You could just order them online, just
Like the
multiple.
Aussie era's shirt. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm sure he's going to wear that often.
So often, it's going to be his new prized possession. Anyway, so as a whole, 50, we did it. I think it
We did
lived
it.
up to the hype because I think a lot of us were going into it after the cast was announced, being like, what's about to happen here? But I think it worked.
I think, look, we can complain all day about the twists and the celebrities and whatever, but I think all in all, it was a fun ride. It really was. It was fun, even just like not just the show itself, but just like the community aspect of it. I feel like was really, really fun and strong this season. It felt like there were so many people who hadn't watched Survivor in years that
Yep.
were texting me about it, that were watching, and it just felt like more relevant than it has in a long time.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it, and I hope that 51 Survivor has a tough time with the seasons right after these All-Star seasons, and I hope that that is not the case here, because I think there's a lot of momentum for the show right now and a lot of new people that have come into it recently, that I hope they are able to continue the momentum, and that 51 will be a at least halfway decent season that can start a new era and a, not hopefully just carbon copy of the 40s. And I'm hopeful but cautiously optimistic, I will say.
Well, that cast is certainly young and spry, so they're ready to carry it on their backs.
The open era.
They just graduated high school, so they're ready.
The open to 20-year-olds era.
The open, literally.
We'll see. We will see. But thank you so much, Philip, for joining me today. Before we go, I have one last question that I ask every new guest in 2026 that we
All
have
right.
on. So we are at the end of this year going to be holding our second annual Chatty Awards, and this year we are adding a guest choice nominee. So every guest is going to nominate somebody who you feel like is the reality star of 2026. It can be from
Oh,
any show, it does not have to be Survivor. And they will be in our nominations for to win this award. Who do you want to nominate?
who? Um, was oh, definitely Sierra Miller. Yeah.
Of course.
I
Of
mean,
course.
who else?
Yeah. She's the star of 2026. Yeah. She's going to be on more in 2026 with Dancing with the Stars, with Love Island, After Sun.
He
She's killing
goes
it.
Love Island to Summer House to Dancing with the Stars. I said, cash that check, baby.
She is
In three
booked
months,
and
making
busy.
basically $1 million. I'm like, yep, keep going.
Yeah, yeah. It's her year. It is her year, and I absolutely think I can't remember if anyone else has said her so far that we've had on this year, but I doubt that it will be the last. So good choice, good choice. Well, Philip, do you have anything that you want to plug? Where can our listeners find you on social media? All that
Ooh.
good stuff.
You can either find me on Instagram or at Costco, my two favorite places. At Phillip Solomon underscore. Please agree with me, disagree with me, do all the things. I respond to all of it. Just because you know what, I like being accessible. I like having real conversations, and so you know what, I if I have to be that accessible reality personality, I will do that for you.
Well, we appreciate it, and this was so much fun as always. So thank you so much for joining me, Philip,
A
and
joy.
thank you so much for listening. We're watching on YouTube. We will be back soon for, we are starting Love Island very soon. Big Brother's coming back in just about a month or so. So lots to look forward to coming up here. So be sure to follow us at Let's Chat Reality and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And we will chat with y'all soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.